The skies above Cortex Prime turned black without warning. The people looked up and saw it. Hundreds of alien warships blotting out the stars. Massive, dark, and shaped like blades, they hovered above cities, casting long shadows over the glass, towers, and busy streets. These ships belonged to the Volari Dreadfleet, the most feared force in the galaxy. Known for wiping out entire planets without mercy, they had arrived with one message: surrender the humans, the Deathworlders, or be destroyed. That message echoed across every system, broadcast into every home, every station, and every council hall. Fear spread like wildfire. The Volari didn't give second chances. They gave 24 hours. Everyone knew who the Deathworlders were. Earth's people. The strange, unpredictable species from a planet so dangerous it was labeled forbidden. Earth, or Sol 3, was known for its deadly weather, violent wildlife, unstable tectonics, and harsh environments. Yet somehow humans had thrived there. Even more terrifying, they had spread beyond. While other species required decades to adapt to new worlds, humans took root like fire in dry grass. They lived in the cold of Titan, the heat of Mars, the storms of Jovian moons. They survived famine, radiation, war, and smiled through it. Most of the galaxy avoided them. Some respected them, a few traded with them. But the Volari saw them as a growing threat. A virus that had to be cleansed before it became uncontainable. Cortex Prime, the capital of the Saren conquered, was the seat of the Galactic Council. A place of peace, of law, of unity, at least in theory. Now it stood helpless. Ambassadors shouted at each other in fear. Some screamed to hand the humans over. Others warned that betraying Earth would doom them all. But no one had answers. The humans hadn't started this war, but everyone could feel that they were going to finish it. Rumors swirled. The Volari had attacked outer colonies, but something went wrong. A ship went dark. A base was lost, then 3 more. And then the Volari declared war. Some said they had seen humans laughing during the battles. Others said they didn't retreat, didn't surrender. They just kept coming. The Council tried to send a message to Earth, but Sol's outer defense net stayed quiet. It was like Earth was watching and waiting. The Volari sent their timer. The 24 hours began to count down. Families wept, armies prepared, planets called for evacuations. But above it all, in silence, those black ships waited, knowing that once the clock ran out, the fire would start. Somewhere deep inside those steel monsters, Volari commanders stood with cold eyes, sure of their power. They had seen 100 species bow in terror. They expected Earth would finally bend. But in quiet corners of the galaxy, in places where humans lived, worked, and fought, something else was rising. The humans had received the message too, and they were not afraid. They remembered what it meant to survive when everything tried to kill them. And now they were remembering something else, what it meant to fight back. Above the swirling clouds of Jupiter, the massive warship Iron Rain drifted quietly in space, its hull gleaming under distant starlight. Inside the ship's command room, Captain Elena Miles stood motionless, her eyes fixed on the large glowing map that showed the rapidly changing positions of fleets across the galaxy. Around her, the atmosphere was tense but focused. The message from the Volari had come clear and loud. Humanity had been declared the enemy, and the time to act was now. Elena knew what that meant. For years, she had trained for this moment, prepared to lead humanity against impossible odds. She had grown up on Earth, in a world where danger was never far. Harsh climates, ruthless wars, and constant struggle had forged her spirit like steel. But this was no local fight. This was the fate of an entire species hanging in the balance. The Volari, with their overwhelming fleets and cold determination, were certain they would crush humanity quickly. But Elena's heart burned with defiance. "They've made their move," Admiral Cora said softly, breaking the heavy silence. His voice was steady, but the weight of what lay ahead was clear in his eyes. Elena nodded. "Then we'll give them a response they'll never forget." Her words were sharp, full of promise and danger. Around her, the officers and crew began to move with practiced precision, preparing ships, readying weapons, and sending orders to human fleets spread across space. This was the moment humanity stepped out of the shadows and faced the storm head-on. The Iron Rain was no ordinary ship. It was the pride of Earth's fleet, strong, fast, and packed with the latest technology, born from decades of hard work and fierce innovation. Elena believed in her people's strength, not just in machines, but in their minds and hearts. Deploy. The fleets, she commanded. Let the galaxy see what it means to wake a Deathworlder. Outside, in the dark vacuum of space, human warships stirred to life. Fighters launched like swarms of angry hornets. Frigates powered up their shields and cruisers aligned their deadly cannons. Humanity was not just defending, it was preparing to strike back. Despite the fear that gripped many across the stars, Earth's people were ready. In the war rooms and command centers on distant colonies, soldiers, pilots, and commanders waited for their orders, each one knowing that this fight was different. The enemy was merciless, but humans had something no other species could match: unbreakable will. Elena's mind drifted for a moment to the stories she'd heard of her ancestors, stories of survival on a planet that seemed designed to kill them, where hurricanes, wildfires, and toxic air tested every human to their limit. But humanity endured, adapted, and grew stronger. Now those lessons would be put to the ultimate test. The Villari believed Earth was a nightmare, a dangerous place no one should live on. But Elena knew Earth had made humans into warriors unlike any other. They were ready to prove it. The countdown was running. In less than a day, the Villari fleet would descend on human space, expecting to find a broken, frightened species. Instead, they would meet something else, a force fierce, united, and unyielding. Elena's voice was calm but fierce as she gave the final command. This is our moment, for Earth, for all of us. Let them come. And with that, the great engines of the Iron Rain roared to life, ready to carry humanity into the fire. Around the galaxy, other human ships answered the call. A wave of determination spread through the stars, carrying a message to the Villari and everyone watching. Humanity would not fall quietly. They would fight, they would endure, and they would make sure the galaxy never forgot the name of the Deathworlders. The vastness of space was shattered by flashes of light as the first battle erupted near the edges of the Orion Nebula. Human fighters darted like swift arrows, weaving through deadly laser fire from Villari dreadnoughts. The enemy's ships were enormous and powerful, bristling with weapons that could level whole planets, but the humans did not back down. They knew this fight was about more than survival. It was a test of everything they stood for. Commander Ryan Varek, piloting a sleek interceptor named Shadowhawk, led his squadron through the chaos. His hands moved quickly over the controls, muscles tight with focus. Every move had to be perfect. One mistake could mean death. Around him, his fellow pilots fought fiercely, their voices crackling over the comms with a mixture of determination and hope. "Stay sharp. Target the Villari carriers," Ryan shouted, dodging a barrage of plasma blasts that seared past his ship. The Villari were brutal, relentless. Their advanced technology gave them an edge, but their arrogance was their weakness. They expected humans to crumble under pressure, to retreat like every other species before them. But the humans were something else. In the midst of battle, a massive explosion lit up the void as a human cruiser managed to cripple a Villari flagship. The cheers from the human pilots were brief, but fierce. Rion felt a surge of pride but knew this was only the beginning. The Villari were adapting fast, sending waves of reinforcements and using strange energy weapons that disrupted human shields. Many human ships were damaged or lost, and the toll was heavy. Yet, no one faltered. The humans had trained for this, not just with weapons but with their minds and spirits. They improvised, learned, and fought harder. Far from the battle, on a hidden human base within an asteroid field, scientists worked tirelessly to boost their defenses and develop countermeasures. Dr. Mara Lin was at the center of it all. Her team analyzed the alien technology, searching for weaknesses. She knew that brute force alone wouldn't win this war. Intelligence, speed, and creativity would turn the tide. As reports came in from the front lines, Mara's eyes scanned the data. She noticed a pattern in the Valari's attacks, an opening that, if exploited, could shift the balance. She sent a message to the fleet commanders. Focus fire on the plasma emitters of the flagship. Our scans show instability during peak firing. Back in the battle, Ryan received the alert and relayed the order. Human ships changed their tactics, coordinating strikes on the weak points Mara had found. The Valari flagship shuddered under the barrage, systems failing one by one. Slowly, the momentum shifted. The Valari fleet, confident and imposing, began to falter. Yet the victory came at a price. Many brave humans were lost, their ships shattered in the cold void. Ryan's squadron took heavy hits, and some friends never returned from the fight. The pain was sharp, but it fueled their resolve. This was their home, their future, and they would not let it fall. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the Valari command ship, tension grew. The commanders whispered in fear and anger. The humans had survived the first wave, fought back with unexpected strength, and even struck a significant blow. This was not the easy victory they had predicted. They had underestimated the Deathworlders. The battle raged on, turning the once quiet space into a deadly storm of fire and metal. The humans pressed forward, their hearts beating as one with the pulse of war. They were fighting not just for survival, but for hope. A hope that no matter how dark the night, the light of humanity would shine through. And so, amid the explosions and chaos, the war had truly begun. The Deathworlders had shown their teeth, and the Valari knew that the price of this war would be far greater than they ever imagined. The space around the shattered moon of Elysia was alive with flashing lights and deafening blasts as the battle escalated to a brutal, close-quarters fight. Human warships, battered but unbowed, weaved through the debris fields, their engines glowing bright against the darkness. Commander Rion Varric gripped the controls of his Shadowhawk tightly, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold of space. His ship had taken several hits but remained steady, a testament to human engineering and his own skill. Around him, the familiar voices of his squadron crackled over the comms, some strained, some calm, all fiercely determined. The Valari pressed harder, unleashing new weapons that pulsed with strange energy, weapons that tore through human shields like paper. Yet every time they struck, humans adapted. They dodged, countered, and retaliated with a ferocity that shocked even the oldest soldiers in the fleet. Elena Miles, aboard the Iron Rain, coordinated the larger battle. Her voice cut through the chaos with steady commands, directing forces with a cool precision born of years in the fight. She knew the stakes were higher than ever. If the Valari breached the defensive ring around the human colonies, it would be disaster. But the humans fought with the desperation of those who had faced death and come back stronger. In the midst of the clash, a sudden explosion rocked the nearby cruiser Valiant Dawn, sending shockwaves that rattled Ryan's ship. His heart pounded as he realized his best friend and fellow pilot, Lyra Kess, had been hit. He called out to her, but the comms were silent. A cold knot of fear settled in his chest. He wasn't ready to lose her. Not now. Pushing through the pain, Rian ordered his squadron to regroup and protect the damaged ships retreating to safer zones. The Valari were relentless, sensing the human weakness, and they pressed their advantage. But the humans had one last hope. An experimental weapon called the Pulse Disruptor, designed by Dr. Mara Lin's team to disable enemy ships' energy cores temporarily. The Iron Rain moved to position, ready to deploy the device. Elena watched the glowing timer on the console as the disruptor charged. It was a gamble. If it failed, the human fleet would be exposed and vulnerable. If it worked, it could turn the tide. At the critical moment, the weapon fired. A wave of blue energy pulsed outward, sweeping across the battlefield. Valari ships shuddered as their systems flickered and died. For a brief, shining moment, the humans seized control. Fighters swarmed the stunned enemy, striking with precision and fury. Cheers erupted in the comm channels, but the victory was bitter. The iron rain took heavy fire during the attack, and Elena felt the ship shudder violently as a missile struck the hull. Alarms blared, and crew rushed to damage control stations. She gritted her teeth, refusing to let the pain or fear take hold. Nearby, Ryan caught a glimpse of Lyra's damaged fighter drifting toward an asteroid. Without hesitation, he broke formation and launched a daring rescue mission. Flying through a hail of enemy fire, he grabbed her ship's tether and pulled her back into the safety of human lines. As she coughed and blinked away the shock, Ryan's relief was overwhelming. "You're not getting away from me that easy," he said, voice thick with emotion. The battle wasn't over, but that moment of saving a friend reminded him why they fought so hard. The Volari, shaken but not defeated, retreated briefly to regroup, leaving the battlefield scarred, but still contested. Human ships limped back to repair docks, their crews exhausted, but unbroken. Elena and Ryan met aboard the Iron Rain, sharing a quiet moment amid the chaos. They knew this was only the beginning. The war was far from over. But the humans had proven something vital. They would never surrender, never break. The Deathworlders laughed in the face of fear, and now the Volari realized the true cost of underestimating them. The galaxy was watching, and humanity's roar had just begun. The stars beyond the wreckage of the last battle still flickered like distant candles, but the mood among the humans was far from peaceful. Repairs were happening non-stop across the fleet, with welders sealing hull breaches and medics working around the clock to save the wounded. In the heart of the asteroid base codenamed Bastion, Dr. Mara Lynn stood before a massive hologram, her eyes scanning patterns of energy the Volari had used in their latest attack. Something wasn't adding up. The enemy had fallen back after the pulse disruptor hit them hard, but the retreat hadn't felt like a true defeat. It felt like they were planning something worse. Mara felt it in her bones. She alerted command and demanded access to deep scan data across several systems. After hours of digging, she found it. Strange gravitational shifts near the edge of the Dervac rift. At first glance, they looked natural, but then she saw the pattern. The Volari weren't retreating, they were gathering something big. Meanwhile, Ryan Varick had returned to duty despite the bruises and burns from rescuing Lyra. His squadron had been halved, and the replacements were younger, less experienced, their eyes wide with fear. Ryan didn't have the luxury to train them slowly. He had to turn them into warriors now. So he drilled them hard over and over, turning fear into muscle memory. "Out here you don't get second chances," he told them, voice firm. "Out here, one mistake gets everyone killed." Some pilots hated him for it at first, but as the simulations got harder and they started surviving them, they began to understand. He wasn't being cruel. He was preparing them to live. At the same time, Elena Miles and her officers were preparing for the worst. Bastion was becoming the center of the resistance, with smaller colonies sending what help they could, supplies, fighters, engineers, and even raw materials. Human unity had never been stronger. Across dozens of planets, people stopped arguing and started building. Factories ran non-stop, assembling new ships, armor, and weapons. Messages of support filled the comms. For Earth, for Elysia, for every world they burned. Yet the Volari were not idle. From the edge of the rift came their answer. A ship so massive it blocked out stars, cloaked in shadow, powered by something unknown. It didn't fire. It didn't speak. It simply moved, slow and deliberate, toward Bastion space. When Mara saw the scans, her voice cracked. "This isn't a ship. It's a machine built to erase civilizations." Panic spread through the fleet like fire in dry grass. Some captains wanted to flee. Others argued to strike it now before it got closer. But Elena stood before them, calm and sure. "If we run, we lose everything. If we fight smart, we still have a chance." She didn't sugarcoat it. This would be the hardest battle yet. It would be ugly. People would die. But if they stopped this thing here, now, they could end the war before it crushed another world. Ryan, listening in the corner, felt a strange, calm settle in his chest. This was it. No more hiding, no more waiting. Humanity had always been at its strongest when its back was against the wall. They called Earth a death world because of how dangerous it was, but they forgot that it made humans stronger. It taught them how to survive, how to adapt, how to win. As the massive Valari weapon drew closer, the humans began final preparations. New prototype weapons were loaded onto cruisers. The pulse disruptor was recharged and refitted. Mara activated a failsafe program that could override enemy systems for a few precious seconds, giving the humans a tiny but vital opening. Ryan met with his squadron for what might be the last time. He looked them in the eyes, rookies and veterans alike, and said, "We were born on a world that wanted to kill us every day. We're still here. They think this monster can scare us. They're wrong. We are Deathworlders, and we laugh in the face of fear." As the enemy ship loomed ever closer, casting a long shadow over the stars, humanity stood ready, not just with guns, but with courage, fire, and the kind of fury only those who have lost everything can carry. The next battle would decide everything. The moment the Valari dreadship entered Bastion space, the sky seemed to break. Its size made everything else look like toys. Whole mountains on the asteroid base trembled from its gravity. Lights flickered, sensors failed, and even the bravest soldiers paused in silence. The ship didn't fire immediately, but its presence alone was enough to squeeze fear into the hearts of the strongest. Elena Miles stood at the command bridge of the Iron Rain, eyes locked on the screen as the shadow swallowed stars. "This is it," she whispered, and then louder. "All ships, battle stations, this is our line. We don't fall back." Dozens of human warships moved into position like pieces on a chessboard, ready to clash with something far beyond their size. Ryan Varric launched with his squadron, engines blazing, his fighter slicing through space as he took point. Behind him flew new pilots, scared but trained, armed with hope and fire. He tapped his comm, his voice strong. "Today, we make history. Don't look at the size of that thing. Remember who we are. We are the storm they never expected." At the science bay deep in Bastion, Dr. Mara Lynn and her team worked with shaking hands, activating the override pulse, a system built to attack the dreadship's internal code. It had never been tested on something so massive. They had one shot. If it failed, the enemy would wipe them from the stars. As the dreadship finally activated its weapons, great beams of energy split space apart, vaporizing asteroids and slicing cruisers in half. Screams filled the comms, alarms shrieked, and fire blossomed across the battlefield. But the humans held. They dodged, dove, returned fire with every cannon they had. The pulse disruptor fired again, a wave of energy spreading out, but it barely slowed the beast. "Again!" Mara shouted, rerouting every bit of power from the asteroid's core into the pulse system. The second blast landed, and this time it worked. Just for a moment, the massive ship shuddered. Its lights flickered, its energy core blinked. That was the opening. Elena shouted, "All fighters now, target the underbelly!" Ryan led the charge, flying into a narrow trench lined with alien weapons. Lasers cut the air around them. Explosions rocked their wings, but they pushed forward. Lyra was back in the fight, side by side with Ryan, her aim deadly and true. One by one, fighters broke through and dropped payloads of antimatter charges. The dreadship groaned like something alive. The belly split open in a flash of orange fire, spilling alien debris into the void. But the ship didn't stop. Instead, it roared back, its core glowing a deadly red. It was about to unleash something catastrophic. "Mara, now!" Elena shouted, sweat pouring down her face. The scientist slammed her hand on the final trigger. The override pulse blasted from Bastion in a direct beam, coded in thousands of complex patterns that Mara had spent her life perfecting. The energy wave struck the dreadship's core and seeped inside. The lights went out. Weapons froze. The great ship began to tilt, but it was too late to stop the final blast. A massive energy surge built in the heart of the ship, an overload, a self-destruct chain that would wipe out everything within 1,000 kilometers. Ryan heard it over the comms. "Core going critical. Everyone out." Fighters scrambled to escape. Capital ships backed off as fast as their engines allowed. But one cruiser, the Vanguard star, was too close, its engines damaged. Elena had to make a choice. The Iron Rain could escape. Or it could stay and use its tractor beam to pull Vanguard star out of the blast zone. Without hesitation, she gave the order. Beam them in. We don't leave anyone behind. The Iron Rain stayed, its engines straining, power surging as it dragged the broken cruiser away. The explosion came seconds later. The dread ship went up in a flash brighter than a sun, a silent scream tearing across space. Shockwaves slammed into the fleet. Shields cracked. Hulls groaned, but they survived. The Iron Rain was damaged, smoking, but still alive. Cheers erupted across the fleet. Bastion held. The monster was gone. And humanity still stood. On the bridge. Elena looked out at the burning sky, tired but smiling. "That's what Deathworlders do," she said. Ryan's voice crackled in. "They try to scare us, and we laugh." And across the stars, those watching finally understood. They had feared the wrong species. The wreckage of the Volari dreadship drifted like a broken god across space, its glowing pieces painting the stars with fire. What was once seen as unstoppable now floated lifeless, torn open by human will and sacrifice. But even as the fleet celebrated, Elena Miles stood quietly on the bridge of the Iron Rain, watching the scans. Her eyes didn't trust victory yet. Behind her, the crew patched systems, ran diagnostics, and whispered to each other in half-relieved tones. Elena had seen too many battles end with surprises. Her instincts told her something wasn't finished. Across Bastion, the people cheered, but in the science wing, Dr. Mara Lynn found it. Buried deep in the remains of the dreadship's signal data, a new code pulsed. A beacon, not a cry for help, but a message sent before the ship died. A last act of the Vellery. She stared at it, her stomach turning cold. The beacon had already reached somewhere beyond the known systems. The Volari had more than one of those monsters. This wasn't their only dreadship. "It was a test," she whispered, horror in her voice. "They were testing us." She ran through the halls to reach command, breath short, heart pounding. When she burst onto the bridge, Elena didn't need to hear much. One look at Mara's pale face told her enough. "We hit back too hard," Mara said. "Now they know what we can do, and they're coming. All of them." Elena felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders like lead. The galaxy had just seen humanity laugh at fear, and now it would try to crush that laugh forever. Already, long-range sensors picked up strange movements in deep space. Fleets were forming in distant sectors. Empires who once ignored Earth were preparing for war, not just the Volari, but others who had watched the battle and decided humans were too dangerous to let grow. Rumors spread fast. Some said entire alien systems were uniting, ancient rivals, putting aside hatred just to face the new threat, us, the Deathworlders. Elena called for a fleet-wide meeting. Every captain, every commander, every leader tuned in as her image appeared across the network. She didn't shout. She didn't show fear. "We won," she said, "but the galaxy now knows what we are, what we can do. Some will call us monsters. Some will try to end us before we become something they can't stop. So let them come. Let them send their fleets. Let them unite. Because now they know the truth. We are not prey. We are not a backwater world. We are Deathworlders, born in fire, raised in war, and built to survive the impossible. We laugh at fear because we've lived with it every day, and when they reach us, when their warships black out the stars, they will remember today, and regret they ever saw our strength." Her words lit fires in the hearts of every soldier, every worker, every survivor. Engineers raced to rebuild and upgrade what was damaged. Factories glowed brighter than ever. New ships were built, faster and stronger. Entire planets sent volunteers. Earth itself, quiet until now, sent out its first armada, massive and silent, cloaked in black steel, rising from under the oceans and deep bunkers hidden for decades. The human race no longer waited for the galaxy to act. They were preparing for war, a war that would decide whether the stars belonged to the old empires or to the children of Earth. In the quiet before the storm, Ryan stood with Lyra on a ridge of bastion watching the horizon. The asteroid base was alive with movement. Tanks rolled, ships lifted, voices called across radio lines. Lyra lit a small flame in her palm from her cybernetic wrist. "Think they'll come fast?" she asked. Ryan smiled, tired but proud. "I hope they do. Saves us the trouble of chasing them." She looked at him. "You're not scared?" He paused, then shook his head. "No, not anymore. They came to test us, and they found the one thing they never expected. Humans who don't run, who don't break, and who don't forget. Whatever's coming, we'll face it, together." Across the stars, as alien empires gathered, one truth had become clear. They had sent one dreadship to frighten humanity, but the Deathworlders had laughed, and now the galaxy would burn trying to wipe that laugh from memory. Too late, far, far too late. The galaxy held its breath as the vast fleets of alien empires gathered at the edge of human space. Massive warships formed dark clouds against the backdrop of distant stars, their weapons humming with deadly promise. From the shattered remains of the Valari dreadship, the message had spread like wildfire. Humanity was no longer a silent world to ignore, but a force to be reckoned with. Elena Miles stood on the bridge of the flagship Iron Rain, her face set in calm determination as she watched the enemy armada slowly advance. Around her, the human fleet prepared for the battle they knew would decide the fate of countless worlds. Every human ship was armed, every crew ready to give their all. Elena's voice was steady as she addressed the captains through the comms. "Today we stand not just for Earth or Bastion, but for all who believe in survival and freedom. We fight for the future of humanity and every soul who calls the stars home." Outside the fleet, the enemy unleashed their opening salvo. Waves of plasma and missiles streaked through space, lighting up the darkness with deadly color. The human ship scattered, weaving through the hail of fire with precision born from decades of hardship and training. Rian Varek, leading his squadron of fighters, danced through the chaos. His hands moved instinctively, piloting with a mix of skill and instinct that made him a legend among the fleet. Explosions erupted around him as he took out enemy fighters and targeted their cruisers' weak points. Lyra fought at his side, their partnership seamless, a blend of trust and unspoken understanding. The air buzzed with the tension of close calls and narrow escapes, but the humans held their ground. On board the Iron Rain, Elena watched the battle unfold, her eyes sharp for every detail. The alien armada was vast, but their formations showed hesitation, confusion. The overwhelming firepower was no match for the human fleet's cunning and adaptability. Mara Lynn worked feverishly in the science bay, sending real-time data to the fighters, hacking into enemy systems to scramble targeting computers and shields. Her breakthroughs allowed the fleet to punch holes in the enemy lines that seemed impossible to breach. Yet the cost was heavy. Ships fell. Heroes sacrificed themselves to protect their comrades. Elena's voice never wavered as she called for calm and focus. She ordered tactical retreats where needed, counterattacks when opportunity struck, and held tight when the enemy tried to break through. Hours passed like minutes, every second a struggle for survival and victory. Then, a turning point. Ryan spotted the enemy command ship, the massive vessel controlling the fleet's coordination. He signaled Elena immediately. The Iron Rain shifted course toward the target, knowing that disabling this ship could turn the tide of battle. The enemy scrambled to defend their heart, sending fighters and turrets to intercept. Ryan and Lyra led the charge, weaving through the defenses with fearless resolve. The fighting grew brutal and close, a blur of flashing lasers and roaring engines. At the last moment, Elena gave the order for the fleet to focus firepower on the command ship. Massive cannons unleashed waves of energy smashing through shields and hull alike. The command ship shuddered and exploded in a brilliant fireball, sending shockwaves through the enemy ranks. Confusion and chaos spread quickly, the alien fleets losing coordination and falling into disarray. The humans pressed their advantage, pushing the attackers back with fierce determination. Yet the battle was far from over. As enemy ships retreated, they unleashed a devastating countermeasure, a massive energy wave designed to cripple the human fleet's systems. Elena ordered emergency shield boosts and system reroutes, barely holding the fleet together. The wave passed, leaving damage but not defeat. Slowly, the human forces regrouped, ready to continue the fight if needed. When the dust settled, the human fleet was battered but victorious. The enemy had been broken. Their plan failed. Elena stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars now peaceful again. Her heart was heavy for the lives lost but filled with pride for those who stood strong. She knew the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had faced overwhelming odds and survived. The Deathworlders had laughed at fear and in doing so became a legend written across the stars. The victory was not just for today but a warning to all who would dare threaten the children of Earth. They fought with the fury of a species born from hardship and tempered by fire. As the fleet moved to secure new alliances and rebuild what was lost, Elena and her crew prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. The galaxy would remember this day, when the Deathworlders stood unbroken, a living storm that no enemy could stop. And as humanity's star burned brighter than ever, one truth remained clear. The universe had found its fiercest defenders.